Trump is planning on meeting with Mandani in the very near future. People might be wondering why. Why is that? Trump really thinks that Mandani is like the socialist, the communist, the all this stuff, and that he's going to be attached to every single Democrat across the entire country, and he wants to pin all the bad things of socialism and being a Muslim and terrorist, all that stuff. He wants to put that on him and then put that on every single Democrat in all 50 states. Why would he want to meet with Mandani? And the answer to that question is basic. Trump needs to assess, is Mandani a warrior? Is he a man? Is he a wartime mayor? That's the basic question. Because in all honesty, the state of New York is holding every single card in the deck against Trump. Let's just start where this all begins, in this administration. Remember, once Trump came into office, Mayor Adams was under investigation, criminal investigation, for his briberies and other things that he was doing, that Mayor Adams was doing. And Trump comes in and he says, well, he sets up the legal structure so that they'll drop the case against him, but it was set up in such a way where that that they could bring it up at any time. This kept a knife to Mayor Adams's throat when it came to their power. And even Judge Ho, who assessed the threat that they did, and 7 U.S. attorneys resigned because of them setting up this literally a legal blackmail against a sitting mayor, which is actually can't just dispar a attorney. Attorneys go to jail for doing exactly that. An attorney cannot threaten you and say, I will sue you for billions of dollars if you don't sign this paper. I will put you in jail if you don't sign this paper. And there are specific times where that is reasonable. For example, in a RICO case or organized mob case, that can be done. It's there can be something like that done, but it actually sends many attorneys to jail for legal extortion. Now, so that's the first one. And that was also backed up on a television interview on Fox News where, where the ICE director was basically saying, we have you in a box, Mr. Mayor. You're going to allow us to do all these terrible things in New York to migrants. So that's a big issue. Then they also tried to take $80 million. Trump tried to take $80 million away from the state of New York by basically pulling it out of accounts held by the city of New York, which is practically theft. It's like them hacking into your bank account and pulling out money, because that was money that was sitting in there one day, and the next day, $80 million is missing from New York. That's 2 very big weapons that he has right there. That's enough to put Pam Bondi and destroy highest levels of people inside of both ICE and inside of the Department of Justice. But that's only the beginning. What he has before that is everything that Trump was doing inside of the state of New York, at least when it comes to the prosecutions that Trump faced. For example, his felony convictions. But the felony convictions are not the major one. The major one that he's sitting on top of are the civil cases and the criminal cases that were filed against the Trump Inc., where they found insurance fraud, bank fraud, tax fraud, all this stuff inside of there, $400 and some odd million in a judgment because of how much they cost the state of New York. That's still being appealed and growing in interest. I think it's 400. It was reduced to 300 and something, and now it's over 400 million again, $450 million. So that's a lot of money, and that also affects the ability for Trump Inc. to go get loans, because every loan that they apply for, bank fraud is attached to that loan. Normally, anyone working in the finance industry, that if you are convicted of bank fraud, you can't even work as a teller inside of the banking industry because you can't be trusted. Then he goes on to the next one, E. Jean Carroll. E. Jean Carroll got those judgments. I mean, he's trying to appeal to try to get that judgment removed to the U.S. Supreme Court. That's not happening. I'm assuming that's probably in the maybe $150 million after all the interest that is gaining. So Trump is going to owe her between $150 million. But the problem is not just those two cases. It's what those two cases get linked to. Those two cases get linked to the 25 women, maybe more, that said that Trump did things to him. And a lot of those women lived in New York. So Mandani has all of that. He has all those women. And all those women were able to watch E. Jean Carroll win a very big case. So he has the ability to utilize those women. This is another card in his deck, the ability to line up all the women that Trump assaulted and played around with in New York over the years. And you think that's all? No. The other big thing is Epstein. Epstein did a lot of stuff in Manhattan and in New York with all kinds of top level of executives, including Donald Trump. And then, of course, there is the one-stop parties that Trump actually was doing that we know that happened because we know the people who put on the parties. The question that Trump is trying to find out is, will Mandani use any of those cards against him, especially now? Because right now, what has just happened, all but one member in the House of Representatives voted to release the Epstein files on a continuing resolution that Trump opposed. In the Senate, all senators. In order to impeach Donald Trump, you just need a majority in the House, 218 votes, and he's impeached. You know what's in the Senate? The Senate requires 60 votes, right, over 2/3, I think it is, and so to remove him. The problem with that is that the Senate just voted 100%. You know what Mandani's holding on to? Everything that Epstein did with Donald Trump inside of the state of New York and Manhattan. That would include, like, Katie Johnson and all the girls that were at the Epstein estate. That are all the cards that he is holding. And Trump is meeting with him because he probably is going to see whether or not Mandani can be bribed. And Mandani might be willing to take a little bit because he's a mayor and he wants to do some very big things. And if he wants to do those big things, he's going to need some big money. So he may use part of those leverage tools that he has with the president, of what he did when he blackmailed the previous mayor, what was happening with regard to Epstein, what was happening with regard to Trump Inc. and the tax fraud, insurance fraud, bank fraud, or, the E. Jean Carroll and all the other women who might line up behind E. Jean Carroll. Is he going to unleash that and then just simply say, listen, I'll let go of, cards number 1 through 4, but I'm going to hold in my back pocket all the other cards? That's the power Mandani has on Trump. As far as my position with me, I'm not a supporter necessarily of democratic socialism. However, I did support Elizabeth Warren in the Democratic primary. She made me a lot more supportive of when it came to Medicare for All, because she had the guy from Moody's who did the assessment of Medicare for All and discovered there was these massive benefits that our society would experience with Medicare for All. But it was a very honest assessment because one of its cold realities inside of the assessment was like millions of people are going to lose their jobs because they're attached to the insurance industry. And I really, really appreciated that with her. And I reviewed her report and I kind of have agreed with it. So I'm not a democratic socialist. I did not support Bernie Sanders in any way, shape, or form for president. for a lot of reasons because he was a socialist. Um, so understand where I come from. I'm not a democratic socialist. I'm not supportive of. There are a lot of democratic socialist policies that I do not agree with. Um, but Medicare for All, I'm much more closer aligned because of Elizabeth Warren. So like, share, subscribe, and let's debate and discuss. Thank you. Talk soon.